The microcosm can be found in the macrocosm. The whole can be found in the singular, and the singular can be found in the whole. As above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. And as without, so within. Hey guys, Anthony here, and today I want to talk about the second Hermetic principle, which is the principle of correspondence. So I want to really talk about example of correspondence and really real life application of that principle. So what does it mean? The second principle is the idea that reality mirrors itself through many seemingly contradictory realms, whether it's the high or the low, the inside or the outside, like I've started with. There's a mirroring principle between all realms of existence, which means if you understand one level, you can extrapolate and start getting glimpses and understanding of the other levels, because they can repeat in patterns. Not exactly the same, but in patterns, in many different forms. So yes, the microcosm can be found in the macro and vice versa. And this image is perfectly illustrated by the example of the image of an atom, macro, and the solar system, macro, with the planets, the sun being the nucleus, the center, with the electrons moving around and the protons being the planets, right? And there's this idea of also principle that you found, and that is used, I think it's in video games, to create kind of 3D realms in video games. It's the idea of a fractal. A fractal is a pattern or a structure that repeats itself at different scales, whether it's small parts that represents the whole. And there's also this the pattern that is repeated through many layers. There's a video that I remember somebody showing me of a fractal where you go into an image and it kind of repeats itself. It's like it goes in and becomes bigger and bigger, and then it starts back, it becomes small again, and it's infinite loop. It's this structure that keeps repeating itself at different levels. So you have this idea of correspondences, often that corresponds whether it's in big or in the small. And there's this idea of, the drop of water. Inside of a drop of water, you can find the wholeness of the ocean. But the ocean also is comprised of infinite amount of droplets of waters, right? Or even in biology and in the stars, whether this different system that keeps repeating themselves. Because it's incredible when you think about the world that is built systems, the pulmonary systems, all the systems that we have in our body, digestive system, that all the electric system, the nervous system that work together, but also on the outside that kind of matches our solar system, but also the time, the day, moon, for the seasons, right? The seasons. Or when you think about the system of the water system, in the sense that how water becomes clouds when it's heated up, it becomes cloud, then it starts raining down the mountains, down the rivers, and then it goes back up, and this cycle too that we've learned when we were in primary school. But basically you see all these cycles upon cycles that kind of match together, and they end up creating this uniform system, kind of this really complicated organism, different levels, but there is something that matches. I think also about the game, the Sudoku game, which is basically a bunch of different squares with numbers, where there is, in the page, there's 9 big squares, right? And there's, I think, 9 columns, and in each of those squares, basically, you must find a number 1 to 9 that must fit in each of those cases, and then each column too, there's 1 to 9, and on each horizontal line must be 1 to 9. So you kind of, knowing all these information, a certain aspect, you can try to figure out which numbers are missing in the cases. Basically, your knowledge of what is supposed to fit into each of those boxes, each of those lines, right, allows you to extrapolate and guess, oh, then the number 2 must be in this way. That's a game that you used to love to play. This is what I think about when I think about correspondences, right? And you see a lot in other pattern that repeats themselves. When you see a cat's eye constellation that is being formed, and the biological eye of man or a cat, or the way that you look at it. I love to look information about ancient civilization, and learning that the way that they build their cities, they resemble a lot electrical grids, as if the way that the buildings were assembled created a way of the energy to move around towns, right? and we get into another system, right? And you see how the things that we do in modernity through electrical grids or even just microchips, how the way that we move the pieces around so that the information or the electricity can flow through resembles how we can extrapolate in the big, or even the idea of invention like the Velcro that was created from a scientist observing birds from different burdock plants that stick to his dog, and then he saw that the little hooks, and he created an invention based on that. So they see a pattern, or certain buildings that are built on I think it's termite or ant hills, the way that inside of these termite houses on the ground, there's a way of distributing the heat and the cold that's been observed, and some buildings have been created to pattern that idea. You see these different correspondences between these different realities, whether it's in the cosmos, as repeated in the physical, in nature, in different systems, right? In the electrical grids, or the way that we even architecture. So these correspondences allow to get understanding. When somebody has an understanding of deeply in their psychology, they can extrapolate it into biology too, right? There's a reflection. So even in the Bible, you have this example of the temple of God, the tabernacle, which is basically when Moses got up the mountain, he encountered Yahweh, and he had these heavenly revelations, right? And basically was told by Yahweh to build the temple according to the image that he saw, right? It was really specific. And it says that the Moses temple, later it was told by the writer of Hebrews, who talked about the temple as a shadow of things, that the temple was a shadow of a heavenly reality. But Yeshua also gives us this key that says that his body was a temple. Many places in the New Testament talks about the body being the temple of God, meaning the temple, the heavenly reality that he saw, the temple that he built. There's an understanding, there's a correspondence to the physical body. So that means when you look at two images of how the temple is built, it resembles a human body. And that's a key, where you see realities in the temple that reflects realities in our bodies, not only physical bodies, but in our soul and our spirit, right? Because the altar of fire and the basin of water are two realities inside of us, our soul, our being, that we can actually access through, mystical practices. And they represent the baptism of fire and water. That's another topic, but basically you see these correspondences, these revelations, these keys when you know when to look. But the thing is, it's in the application. How do we use this law how do we apply it in everyday life? It's really simple. And I want to give us this quote by Mahatma Gandhi that kind of explains it perfectly. We but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in our outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. This is the divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing it is, and the source of our happiness. We need not wait to see what others do. So basically, get an understanding that the outer is a mirror for what's inside of us. That our inner tendencies, reaction, our inner world will end up projecting itself, recreating itself on the outer. If we want to change, sometimes we try to change how people act. We don't need to change how they act, but we need to become a different person inside. There's still a correspondence, a reflection or projection. And so we get with this understanding, we understand that the things that we want to change in our life is the first the responsibility of the things that are close to us. Sometimes we look at, if especially in the time that we live in, the Epstein files and all the things, it's all dark and stuff. Well, even that with the Epstein files, look, there's something happening outside, a revelation of things dark that wasn't seen, that humanity was somehow blind to. When you think when you apply the correspondence, something's happening outside. Therefore, it's also happening inside of the consciousness of many people inside. There is darkness being revealed that people didn't want to acknowledge. It's something that is happening within people too. The knowledge is aspects of ourselves that we do not want to see, that we wanted to keep hidden. But the thing is, when we allow them to be seen, when we process them, when we allow those egos to be dissolved, And when we take the time to look at them, and we don't strengthen them by rejecting them, by observing them, not trying to suppress them, but observing them, as humanity brings those things more and more to light, then the outside world also reflects it. So this is the key, one of the biggest revelation that I've got in my spiritual journey. When you change on the inside, the outside changes too. If you want to heal the world, if you want to change the world, take a look at the mirror and then change yourself. Because as you change, you are changing other people too. So this is a harness where you don't give your power away to other people. Say, no, if those people won't change, it's over. No. If you change, you can become a change for the people around you, your family, your town, your city, beyond. And it gives you the weight of responsibility. Less excuses. And so that's pretty much all for today. The understanding of the principle of correspondences, how you can see patterns in things, understanding a certain level of reality, and it gives you insight on understanding other levels of reality. The change that we want to see outside of us, they must first start within. And this is us now having the hand under the guiding wheel. So this is kind of a weight, but also a blessing. Right? So that's pretty much all for today. Second Hermetic principle, correspondences. Peace. Have a good day.